75% by 2025. So that's 10 years out. And you're saying that the generation which is at work today is just 2 years old. But the highlight for me on that slide was that if I stretch that timeline by another 5 years to take it 2030, the generation X will go away from workforce. So all the people today who seem to be in the middle layer or people who are in the senior positions today, they may not exist 15 years down the line.
Yep.
And that is our reality of today. And then at the other spectrum of it, if I think about the millennials who are coming into picture and think about the products which are emerging in the marketplace, whether it's wearables, whether it's applications, whether it's mobiles, smartphones, if I think about the new age, even consumer durables and clothing, they are very, very different. And they are all catering to the needs of what millennials are looking forward to do. So if that's the world where we are headed to, then obviously we need to be thinking about what's the best way to engage with them. What's the best way to attract them? I was just flipping the newspaper, one of the financial dailies today morning, and it had a very nice article which talks about zooming into the future, 2050. And this whole supplement was all about wearables. It talks about, people having their nail enamels, which tell them how many calories they're supposed to consume. Now, it seems like very imaginary, but having said that, those are the products of future. I don't know how many of you paid attention to the weekend newspaper, which talks about applications enabling dating, as personal as dating getting enabled. So there are consumers for services like that who are kind of going all out and buying it. The nature of business which is changing around is only owed to those consumers existing. So I see a significant change of how we're going to engage, how we're going to attract, and how we're going to develop leaders of tomorrow and train that workforce.
No, interesting you say that, because a lot of many of those examples that you gave were actually around, let's say, the customer outside and how people engage is around technology. Yeah, in that context, are organizations investing in technology enough to be able to do some of those things? Whether it's about applications, to kind of build social networks internally, or platforms to do social networks internally, or to the point around big data and culture that I was speaking about. Are companies using technology effectively to be able to kind of get this data and be able to kind of service people internally effectively?
Yes, there are. And I would say every company is trying to experiment with data. Every company is trying to experiment with technology. So it's no more just traditional ERP systems which are in vogue. People are talking about cloud. People are talking about absolutely new platforms. People are talking about mobile. People are looking at data in a very, very different way and looking at what data is speaking about. I would say at this point in time, this is my personal opinion, where we are in the journey, people are experimenting a lot. Does everybody has a clear vision of what it will turn out to be 5 years down the line? I think it's yet to be seen. At this point in time, the way I see everybody is experimenting. We are in midst of transitions of a few generations, so everybody's trying to grapple with what that generation would look like and what would be the true demand out there. But yes, there is a lot of experimentation happening at this point in time.
Thank you. Anything that you want to share from a perspective in terms of what's happening out there?
I think that's a technology I feel is really disruptive. I mean, in a positive way for the TA. We're talking about talent acquisition right now, and I think that's if I look at the big change in the paradigm in recruiting or TA now is actually technology which is playing the role, and I think it's playing in various facets. And if I look at from Microsoft point of view and some of the practices we do, right. Some of the things which were like, in the past we used to do this, these interviews and all that. A lot of now this online assessment have come into place. We do a lot of hackathon both for industry as well as for our campus hires. where we look at doing various code and code programs and competition out there. I think the ATS or the applicant tracking system has become much more advanced now with the advent of technology, right? So you can really parse data and look at, apply your machine learning logic and find really the suitable candidates for yourself. Social media is playing a huge role out here, right? I mean, gone are the days you are just flipping paper and looking at just the job boards. Today, if you ask me, a company like us, like many of our candidates are not even available on those job boards, right? So it's all about really, we call it the passive hiring or opportunistic hiring, where you try to create those funnel of people, whether it's the cloud or various technology you work on. So I feel that technology is playing a huge role out here, and I think social media per se is huge. When you look at the advent of LinkedIn and the Twitters and now even Facebook and all that. So the TA is really focusing on the people they want to hire than just looking at a generic pool which we used to do in the past. So there's a huge shift in the paradigm in recruiting is what I feel, Aisha.
Maybe anything that you've seen in this area which is new, exciting, different?
Sure, quite similar to what Vikram has said, but I have felt that there has been a change. A candidate has looked like a customer. Like just like you go to a customer and you're trying to get him onto a platform and trying to attract him to your product, and I'm talking this because I'm from Amazon and we keep getting more and more customers on the platform. Similarly, to attract a candidate onto your organization, there are multiple technology things that are being used. Very rightly put, when you are going to campuses, you're using systems where you can assess people online. Quite a lot of people, when you're looking at middle management, you're looking at how can you do hackathons and things like this. And when it is senior management, it is things like LinkedIn and so on and so forth. But one thing which has really gone very well is the fact that people are trying to see, can we be a little more innovative? Like, can we go mobile and attract talent? Can we look at machine learning tools? In fact, Amazon is right now piloting with the machine learning tool internally to see whether we will be able to attract talent, and should we reduce our cycle time by using an internal tool like that. So I think technology would play a big role, and I think the generation today would be more comfortable with companies who are able to leverage technology instead of going through the traditional methods which were used earlier.
Sure. Mohan, your take?
I think I completely agree with it. The social media technically evolved quite a lot today. There's a lot of potential. The recent example in Tata BSS, one of our largest media client was very happy with the level of English people speak, was very happy with the customer service, but they're not happy with the affinity to the media of these resources. They don't feel that these guys don't love the media, but they speak about media. How can you get the people who love media? We said, that's a bigger challenge. We went into Facebook. We figured out how many movie fan clubs are there in Facebook. We published there, and we hired significantly well with zero cost. If you're able to smartly tap a particular channel for a particular challenge, I think it's there. It's just a question of we being more innovative in that media space, and then utilize the technology or build our own tools. And rightly Deepti said, each of our enterprises are continuously innovating how to make the cycle time less, get a right talent, and then make it happen.
When you talk of kind of reducing cycle time and reducing cost and building efficiencies, one of the things that's also spoken of, and some companies are getting it quite, doing a lot of work around that, is the whole referral hiring, and that's possibly the power of kind of being able to build the right ambassadors internally and for them to be able to kind of. So is that something that's gaining momentum, gaining stuff? What's your
Yes, there is a lot of work which has happened in that particular space. Referral continues to be, I would say, still a lesser tapped source of hiring. We look at data across, and if you look at the industry and your research itself talks about somewhere in 20s at this point in time, majority of the organizations. Progressive organizations would be in 30s, and that's where it taps. Come to think about it, attracting talent is the biggest cost for an organization. And if I have the right talent sitting within my own organization, then why do I need to go and use anybody else to attract talent? The good talent will attract the good talent, and so if I work on that particular philosophy, yes, referral is still an untapped area. Is there is a technology advancement happening in that particular direction? Significant. So we have gone ahead, invested in a technology which maps employees' social media pages with our internal ATS system, and it gives them probabilities of within their network how many people match with open positions available within our own organization, and it goes or shows a probability that this is a 90% match and this is an 80% match and so on and so forth. And all I need is a couple clicks from an employee for me to reach out to their network and say that, hey, you are a referral, and I transfer the payout to the candidate, to the person whose network has given us that particular candidate. So yes, that is happening. It is a technology, and I'm sure there are a couple other organizations in the market who adopted that particular method. Having said that, technology itself, and if I look at referral and extend that to technology question back again, we do have a lot of disruptive sourcing platforms which have come into play. To name a few, if you think about mynoticeperiod.com, or for that matter, LinkedIn itself, which is kind of taking away the traditional staffing business, the core agency business from people. I think they've been around, they've done their disruption, and that's been done. But access to people is becoming a lot easier. And if I just put 2 data points up here from our own country perspective for people to understand the context. So 100 smart cities in next few years. Couple days back, announcement of 500,000 villages getting connected with Wi-Fi. What does that mean? If today I was relying on just over 100 cities and looking at traditional methods to connect with talent, I have now access to 5 lakh villages, irrespective of whichever part of the country you are sitting in. I can reach out to you and talk to you and get an access to you. So I would say it's a very, very exciting time to watch for as us as a professional and being where we sit in at one level. At the other level, I think it's going to be fairly disruptive for talent too, to adapt to these changes so quickly and get to what organizations are looking forward for.
So, maybe we should kind of, a couple of last questions. So in your opinion, and maybe we could just go across everyone, what would be 2 or 3 of the biggest issues that HR will have to get itself to be supporting businesses as they kind of shape up for growth in days to come?
So from my perspective, the biggest challenge would be twofolds. One is with the talent professionals, for them to start looking at their jobs as not what's been just taught to them in their core specialization courses on HR, but start to view their roles as more an human, not just human resources professional, but also as more an holistic management professional. So all streams of management qualification, whether it's in the area of marketing, operations management, finance, technology, and core subject on HR, they need to use all skills to be a true acquisition professional. And that's a huge shift for our professionals today in the marketplace to get into that particular mode. Our thinkings are still more restricted to HR as an area, more policies, more guidelines, and more best practices comparison, and that mindset has to change. The second mindset or second challenge which businesses will see is disruption of their own products, and owed to that pressure backs on business leaders and how they predict what is going to be needed in the times going forward, and how do you kind of prepare your organization and your business leaders to also adapt to that particular change. So I see challenges in 2 folds. One for our own professionals today who are doing the TA job, and second is business leaders to adapt to the market changes.
And before I come to you, Uma, on the same question, we'd actually done a global research. It's been about a year and a half now, And one of the questions was that, how do you see HR structures changing over a period of time? And what CEOs and CHROs of Fortune 500 companies said was very similar to what you actually reported, that a role of a CIO within an HR organization, I think it's going to come in place and be a very influential, strong role over a period of time. And the other is this whole thing around branding and communications and social media. So within HR, you will have specialist roles that will actually go out and do this. Now the question is, will people in HR be taught some of these skills or learn some of these things to do this job? Or will it be actually specialist folks coming in to be doing some of those? So that's an interesting one that you shared. It's something to watch out for.
I strongly believe that the boundaries of specialization roles are kind of diminishing. So if you look at marketing and technology, if they are not aligned, it cannot work. If HR and technology are not aligned, it may not work. If marketing and HR are not aligned, it may not work. If finance and all of these functions are not aligned, it's not going to work. So if these specializations the lines are getting blurred, then we need to understand each other's world a little more deeply than the way we understand today. And going back to your initial comment that HR guys are paid the most.
I never said the most. I said they're amongst the more premium functions absolutely out there.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think HR professionals have to go ahead and start to showcase that they really deserve the best.
Sure. Thank you. Uma?
Yeah, Nitin, I think the challenges would be different for different organizations, different sized organizations. A large organization like Vikas mentioned has got those kind of challenges of technology and connecting it to the whole process. A medium-sized organization or a small organization has different kind of challenges. I think the first thing I believe is for HR to set its house in order as far as the mindset of business partnership as well as delivery. Whether it's talent acquisition or any other aspect of it, I think getting really focused on metrics, getting to show the value on the table, I think is going to be really, really important. So today, it's not just about going somewhere and getting a person on board. It's about how you do it, the efficiency with which you do it, the consistency with which you do it, etc. So I think it's really important for the HR professionals to understand how they run their processes and whether that process actually gives the value to the business at the end of the day. Very often times you actually end up monitoring your SLA. SLA for filling up a particular position may not be as important as getting the right kind of person over there and quickly. So how do you sort of keep your house in order that you know exactly what to do the moment something is coming up proactively, or are you reacting all the time? So that's one. Number two, I believe, is you really in a mid and small sized organization, you have to pay a lot of attention to employer branding. Are they going to be the brand ambassadors for you to be able to get the right perception built outside in the community is very important. Very often, because you're in a race to sort of grow and get your business up, you might actually neglect that aspect of it, and that proves to be very costly when you go later into the market to get talent, because these are the people who will speak about the organization through forums which are available on the social media. So I'm not sure whether social media is the biggest challenge. I think the challenges are all within many times in small and mid-sized organizations. So we need to pay attention to ensure that we get the right people.
Thank you. Mohan, what's your take, or what are going to be HR's biggest priorities to be able to support businesses?
So I think I echo exactly what Uma and Vikas said. I don't know how many of us feel we are now centered to the business. And I go back to the point where no longer a support function in either HR, especially talent acquisition team, it's a now center to the business. As much we should understand as a business partner in terms of what they would need as a support and solution proactively, and build that solution from the market perspective and bring that in-house. That is one very high priority for all of us. And second, how much digitally tech savvy we are. Okay, somewhere I heard down the line, next 20 years, 70% of talent acquisition engine is not required as of today. Our media will deliver those numbers the moment you just put in a few details into the system. That's the changing demographics. So in that demographic change, how much are we going to be relevant down the line 15 years? And how fast we can catch up with this change?
I think pretty much what all of them have covered. Apart from that, I think two other things which is very important is today HR is being asked questions about what is the ROI on the talent acquisition that you're doing, what is the ROI on the processes that you are building on, like if you are hiring and compensating people, what's the productivity at the end of the day. So from a support function, HR has come to the forefront where they're responsible for revenues at the end of the day because all this is affecting. The second thing is, you know, the way people used to look at HR, that's changing quite a lot. Like many of you must have heard that a lot of companies are doing away with the performance appraisal systems and doing away with this. So the traditional HR of, you know, let's have them to fill some forms and do some things, those are going away. So HR needs to be has to invent and simplify processes which are very easily understood by employees, and employees should be able to relate to it. So I think one of the challenges with HR would be that are they thinking innovatively so that they are able to, you know, cater to the needs of the employee as well as the business. So I think pretty much apart from what others have covered.
Sure. Vikram?
Yeah, I think enough have been said about this topic. I just feel that you know, for today in the current scenario, you know, from where we are right now, HR pretty much has to have a seat at the table. And if the HR has to have the seat at the table, you know, having the deep business acumen and knowledge is very, very important. And I was just thinking about when we were discussing about this, I read an article a few days back in HBR, which was about, you know, a lot of a lot of the CHROs are moving into CEO roles these days, right? I mean, there's a big paradigm shift happening in the industry. And what everybody said, I think HR really has to create a value, and has to be an ROI. And the industry is moving very, very fast. In fact, whatever the practices we had last year pretty much may not be there today, right? So how do you really keep up the pace of you are having the entire, you know, TA challenges of handling millennials, handling a market industry which is very competitive. So how do you really innovate, build and come up with innovative HR practices which really align to the market? And there's always this thing about you want to be at the forefront of technology, right? So and HR is no different. I mean, HR is using technology today which it has never been so, you know, in the past, right? So to be ahead of the curve and be partnering very you know, strongly with the business is very, very important, because today for any HR professional to succeed, whether you're in line HR or whether you are in TA, you really need to really have a strong business partnership, right, where you have a seat at the table. And you can only have a seat at the table when you have enough knowledge on the area you're working for and you are in line with what is happening in the industry overall. That's what I think.